Representative Henderson, Representative Erminson, Representative Holt, Representative Kressig, Representative Kurth, Representative Levin, Representative Meggers, Representative Moore, Representative Rinker,
Excused.
Representative Thompson, Representative Wessel Chrisell, Representative Wills.
Thank you. If there aren't any further objections, the chair moves approval of the minutes from the previous meeting. Seeing no objections, the minutes are approved. If you might want to grab pen here, the following bills have been assigned. You all ready? House Study Bill 637, Henderson, Hermanson, Kressig. House Study Bill 641, Vondran, Gosa, Gustav. House File 2158, Wills, Gerhart, and Kurth. House File 2176, Meggers, Gustav, and Gosa. That's it for today. Now, if there are no further objections, I'll be turning the chair over to Representative Wingren.
Thank you. The chair recognizes Representative Vondran for opening remarks on House Study Bill 552.
House Study Bill 552, prohibiting counties and cities from issuing local ID cards. The House Study Bill would prohibit Iowa counties and cities from creating and issuing their own local identification cards for residents. The measure allows exceptions for counties authorized to issue state driver's licenses, official state IDs, and disability identification devices, as well as IDs provided to government employees or elected officials for work-related duties. The main intent is to standardize identification practices and limit the use of locally issued IDs outside of an official state-approved purpose. That concludes my opening remarks.
Are there any further comments on the bill? Representative Jordy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We had a lively discussion at the subcommittee. One thing that I certainly would note is that we had 30 minutes of folks speaking, and in that 30 minutes, I didn't hear a single person that said that this is an idea that was going to solve any problem that we currently face. I did say, and I'll just repeat, that during the process of being a law enforcement officer and a city police officer for the city of Cedar Rapids, I have come across multiple times individuals that I have found outside, either laying in a park or laying in an alley, having some sort of medical crisis. And immediately after, I call for Cedar Rapids Fire and area ambulance to respond to provide medical care. I'm in the process of trying to identify the individual who is laying in front of me and looking for any sort of ID. Sometimes that's a state issued ID. Sometimes it's a credit card or a debit card with their name on it. We do not have city or county IDs in Lynn County, but if they had it, I wouldn't be opposed to being able to identify somebody that way. From my understanding of current legislation is that these city and county IDs cannot be used for anything such as driving or getting on a plane or voting. Simply used to be able to identify somebody. I don't see the problem in which this legislation is trying to solve. I also want to say that I believe strongly in local control. And if we in our communities are electing county supervisors and city council members to create policy and rules and law within their communities, we should allow them to do that. If somebody in the community disagrees with a policy or a law or a regulation that they create, then the community probably should look to elect somebody different. Too many times in Des Moines, I think that we decide what happens here under the golden domes of the Capitol fits every shoe in the state of Iowa. And we know that cities and towns and communities are created differently. And what works well in Cedar Rapids may not work well in Des Moines or Spencer or Mason City or Burlington or Keokuk. And so I think we need to take that into account. So as far as I am concerned, this piece of legislation is not something that we need to add to our code book, and I will be voting no.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Levin.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just going to be speaking from the perspective of a Johnson County resident today and a Johnson County elected official. I reached out as soon as this bill came before us to my county because we have a decade-long, incredibly successful community ID program, one of 2 such programs in the state. The Johnson County Community ID is a photo identification that can be available to any resident of Johnson County. The ID was established to ensure that all members of the community are welcome and can participate in the economic and social life of our county. The ID cannot be used, as Representative Jurdy stated, to get a driver's license, to board an airplane, to purchase alcohol or tobacco, to enter establishments with age restrictions, to provide employment eligibility, or to vote or to register to vote. What it can be used for is to confirm identity, to interact with schools, with city and county agencies, to get a library card, when interacting with law enforcement officials, to list emergency contact and allergy information. We even have some local businesses that offer discounts to folks who have a community ID. I want to share a couple of specific positive stories. I reached out to and spoke with members of our law enforcement community, members of our county staff, and I want to share a couple of specific stories. About a year after the program was started, a woman's body was found in the Iowa River. She was unclothed and appeared to be Latina, yet no one from that community had filed a missing persons report, and there was no way to identify her even through fingerprints. Because of the relationship building that had occurred between law enforcement and the immigrant community while working on the community ID program, there was enough trust for members of the community to speak with the sheriff's office, look at photos, and identify the decedent. Another story I want to share, an individual in our community is an adoptive parent, and their adoptive children do not look like them. They got community IDs for them and for both of their children, because one of the positives of the community ID is that it is available to Johnson County residents of all ages, not only those who are old enough to get a state ID. One day they were at the mall where the child was playing. The child is autistic, and the child did not want to stop playing, began acting out, yelling and screaming and throwing themselves on the floor. The parent attempted to use physical restraining hug that was usually effective in calming the child, but this time it escalated the behavior, and the child began screaming, "Leave me alone, you're not my mom." Remember, this is a parent who does not look like their child. Immediately, mall security was on the scene. The child continued screaming that the parent was not their parent and trying to get away from her. She was able to produce the community IDs that she had for herself and for her child to demonstrate to the mall security that this was in fact her child, that the child was having an outburst, and security realized that the child was acting out and that this was not a case of stranger danger. This matter could have escalated dramatically without the community IDs. In fact, this was a use for the community IDs that was not anticipated at the time they were implemented in Johnson County, but I think is a vital one to understand. During the subcommittee, not a single member of the lobby and not a single member of the public spoke in favor of this bill. In my view, it is an anti-local control bill in search of a problem. I don't understand why we would pass it through committee, and I ask you to vote no today.
Representative?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Having worked with our homeless community, I'd like to talk a little bit about this bill. One of the first things that happens in our homeless community, or the most difficult thing, is that many individuals who find themselves homeless also do not have access any longer to their birth certificate or any source of ID. So by quickly being able to get them this very simple ID that doesn't give them access to a lot of things, it's a start in getting them an identity and getting them help in re-establishing who they are. They do all eventually go to look for their birth certificates. They apply for their birth certificates and eventually get it, but that's time consuming. And in these homeless situations, it's very important to get our people back into a good living situation as soon as possible. So I see the IDs as being very helpful in getting a start for our homeless population.
Thank you. Any further comments on the bill? Representative Kresick?
How did this bill come about? What was the focus? Who presented it to you? Is it an individual legislator that's doing this, or is it some organization in the state that wants this to be passed? Can you,
Did you want
to
to
Yep.
ask Representative Bondurant to yield?
Representative Bongren, would you yield to that question? Okay, my question was, who generated this bill? An individual legislator? Was it a group come to you and asked you to do it? How did this all happen?
Concerned law enforcement member that had reached out to me initially and said, this is becoming a problem for them. That's where it began.
So it wasn't the Association of Law Enforcement, it was one law enforcement person that came to you?
Who's a member of law enforcement?
Or is he,
Make sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Since then, you'll notice too that all law enforcement in the state is registered in favor of this act as well. We now have, the Iowa State Police Association is registered for it. The Iowa Police Chief Association is registered for it. The Iowa Fraternal Order of Police is registered for it. And the, excuse me, sheriffs have also registered for it. Sheriffs and deputies have also registered in favor of it.
okay, so you're eliminating the process for community have IDs, basically, right?
I'm sorry.
Are you, so your proposal is to eliminate community IDs, like a city or a county is placing?
This bill would prohibit Iowa counties and cities from creating and issuing their own form of ID, yes.
Okay.
Representative Levin.
Thank you, Chair, for recognition for the second time. I will just add an addendum to my comments, which is that I sat down with my local law enforcement, including county and city, including officers and leadership on this bill, and not a single one of them has a problem with this program. In fact, it has been hugely beneficial to their work in the community where this program actually exists.
Thank you. Any further comments? The chair recognizes Representative Vondran for closing remarks on House Study Bill. Representative Vondran moves the bill. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Representative Vondran,
Aye.
Representative Wengren, Representative Jurdy,
No.
Representative Amos Jr., Representative Brown Powers, Representative Cisneros, Representative Fisher, Representative Gerhart, Representative Gosa, Representative Gustav, Representative Henderson, Representative Hermanson, Representative Holt,
Aye.
Representative Kressig, Representative Kurth, Representative Levin, Representative Megers, Representative Moore, Representative Thompson, Representative Wesley Chrisell, Representative Wills. 13 yeas to 8 nays.
With 13 members voting aye and 8 members voting nay, the bill passes. House Study Bill 552 moves to the floor as a committee bill. The chair now recognizes Representative Vondran for opening remarks on House Study Bill 612.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. 612, this bill amends Iowa law to allow certified law enforcement officers to use unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs, to assist in apprehending drivers who are fleeing or attempting to elude police, and to cite such drivers for any traffic violations committed during the pursuit. This does not allow UAVs to issue citations to those not involved in the chase. The bill also changes the standard for when information obtained via UAVs is admissible in court, allowing such evidence if it is collected from the location viewable from public airspace or public view, or if otherwise consistent with the state and federal law. And that concludes my opening remarks.
Any comments on this bill? Representative Jurdy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This piece of legislation, I think, is critically important to moving policing into the 21st century. We all know that eluding and pursuits are extremely dangerous for the public, for peace officers, and anything we can do to try to eliminate some of that risk is something that we should be looking into. With the advancement of technology and drone usage, I know that there are agencies across the state, and in Cedar Rapids, we are about a year away, already have the financing to have pods of drones that are going to be placed into 3 different parts of the city. So if an individual calls in at 2:00 in the morning and says, I hear glass break, I think somebody's breaking into my house, Cedar Rapids police officers are going to respond to that location as quickly as possible, but it might take, depending on where the officers are at, 3-4 minutes to get there. The capabilities that we should have, hopefully within the next year or so, will allow a certified drone operator to launch a drone from one of these 3 locations and get to that location, hopefully within 60 to 90 seconds, and be able to report back to officers while they're en route to the scene what they currently see, what's going on at that location. Currently, Iowa code prohibits the evidence from an individual looking at drone footage to testify in criminal and civil hearings. This will be unlike anything that we've had before. Cedar Rapids used to have a helicopter and a pilot. If a pilot of the helicopter saw something, they could testify to it. The fixed air wing of the Iowa State Patrol, when we work on projects, when we work on projects with them, if they see evidence from the airplane, they're able to testify to that in court. This is no different than a certified peace officer flying an unmanned air vehicle or a drone to be able to look at the screen and use that evidence to testify to in court. There were some concerns by a couple of individuals in subcommittee, and if this piece of legislation advances, continue to have conversations with those people to make sure that we get it right. This by no means the intent is not to, do something crazy or new with warrantless searches. I will have an amendment that I will bring to the floor that will hopefully address the concerns of that. We are not looking to do warrantless searches. We are looking to ensure that we're able to use the technology that is now available to us and that will continue to be available to us in the future to ensure that we are able to get the folks that are committing crimes off the street as quickly and as safely as possible for all involved.
Thank you, Representative. Any further comments on the bill? Seeing none, Representative Bondren.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We all recognize that, and we've all learned that eluders are a very dangerous crowd. A very dangerous crowd, not only for those pursuing, but also innocents that should just be going about their day. This piece of legislation, I'd like to thank Representative Jurdy for bringing it to my attention so that we could present to the committee for consideration. I believe it's good, solid public safety work here. And to your point, that floor amendment, I also believe will gain support, and we'll be able to bring this to the floor and get a very positive outcome. That concludes my remarks.
The bill.
Move the bill.
All right. All right, Chair, would you please Clerk, would you please take the roll?
Representative Vondran,
Aye.
Representative Wangren, Representative Jurdy,
Yes.
Representative Amos Jr., Representative Brown Powers, Representative Cisneros, Representative Fisher, Representative Gerhart, Representative Gosa, Representative Gistoff, Representative Henderson, Representative Ermanson, Representative Holt, Representative Kressig, Representative Kurth, Representative Levin, Representative Megers, Representative Moore, Representative Thompson, Representative Wessel Rochelle, Representative Wills, 19 yeas to 2 nays.
With 19 members voting aye and 2 voting nay, the bill passes. House Study Bill 612 moves to the floor as a committee bill. I will now turn the chair back to Representative Vondran.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Seeing no further business, then this committee